Since the dawn of her youth, she's been conditioned to believe the world would orbit her beauty. Compliments in her inbox, glances across rooms, men competing for a moment of her attention, all of it reinforced one idea, that desire would always move toward her, never away. This became her truth, her confidence, her worth, even her sense of control, all built on a constant stream of validation from men too eager to prove themselves. But what happens when that current stops? When one man, calm, self-contained, untouchable, refuses to play the game? At first, she calls it arrogance. Then confusion sets in. Her mind starts racing. Why isn't he chasing me? Did I lose my charm? What changed? And that's when the illusion begins to crack. Because deep down, she's not battling you. She's battling the silence you created. You see, every woman has been taught to expect pursuit, but few have ever faced the reflection of a man who doesn't need to chase. A man who's already full. A man who doesn't orbit. He commands his own gravity. And when she encounters that kind of presence, it's not rejection she feels, it's disruption. Her ego trembles because she's met something stronger than attention, composure. Brother, this is where the real shift begins, not in what you say, but in what you stop giving. Start this journey now. Like and subscribe to Stoic Station for daily lessons in emotional mastery and quiet power. Drop a 1 if you've ever confused chasing with caring, or a 2 if you finally know the difference. Because what comes next will show you exactly how the world changes when you stop chasing. Let's dive in. 1. The shift begins when you stop chasing. When you stop chasing, something powerful begins to unfold. The silence you create isn't emptiness, it's awareness. It's the moment you finally stop pouring your energy into proving your worth and start standing in it. Most men believe that chasing equals caring. They confuse movement with meaning, effort with love. But the harder you chase, the more invisible you become. Because when you're constantly reaching for her, she no longer sees your heart. She only sees her own reflection of power in your pursuit. Every message, every call, every attempt to win her back isn't building connection, it's feeding her ego. And the more you try to show her your value, the less she has to look for it. But something changes when you stop, when you stand still in calmness, when you detach from the chaos and return to yourself. The entire dynamic shifts. She starts wondering, why isn't he chasing me? Did he move on? What's different about him? That stillness becomes a mirror, forcing her to see herself without your validation. It's unsettling for her, because for the first time she feels the absence of control. Your silence disrupts the rhythm she's used to, and her mind begins to spiral in that unfamiliar space between curiosity and insecurity. This is the irony most men never understand. Attraction doesn't grow from your effort, it grows from your absence. The moment you stop trying to prove your worth, you become a mystery again. Your restraint forces her to face something she's been running from, the possibility that she isn't as irresistible as she believed. And nothing captures a woman's attention more than the man who doesn't hand it to her. Your calmness is not passivity, it's strength disguised as peace. It's the quiet confidence of a man who knows that his value doesn't need an audience. When you stop chasing, you stop negotiating for what should be freely given, respect. You stop running after validation and start walking toward purpose. And when you do that, everything changes. Because the less you chase, the more she starts to chase clarity from you. She becomes the one analyzing the silence, replaying your stillness, wondering what she lost. That's the paradox. Your withdrawal doesn't make you weaker, it makes you unforgettable. The man who steps back doesn't lose power, he reclaims it. So brother, understand this. Stillness is not surrender, it's a recalibration of power. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you remind her and yourself that your worth was never meant to be proven through pursuit. It was meant to be felt through presence. And when that realization hits, everything around you begins to shift. The way you move, the way she sees you, and the way peace starts to follow you. Because the real transformation doesn't happen when you win her back. It begins the moment you decide you don't need to. And that's when the game changes forever. 2. What happens in her mind when you don't chase? A woman can handle rejection, but not indifference. Rejection still feeds her ego in a strange way. It proves she mattered enough to stir emotion in you. But indifference, it erases her story completely. It tells her that she was never the center of your world, and that truth cuts deeper than any goodbye. When you stop chasing, you're not pushing her away. You're simply removing her from the throne she thought she owned. You're reclaiming the space she once occupied in your mind, and that shift creates an echo she can't ignore. Inside her, the equilibrium starts to break. She begins to question everything she's been taught about her own power, her beauty, her charm, her ability to command attention. Society conditioned her to believe she was irresistible, that men would always orbit her simply because of how she looks. But your silence challenges that illusion. You're not reacting, not chasing, not competing, and that's what unsettles her. Because deep down, her confidence was never built on peace. It was built on validation. And when that validation disappears, something far more profound happens. Psychologists call it ego collapse, the sudden crash that occurs when the external approval someone depends on is cut off. The dopamine hits she once got from every like, compliment, or message fade, leaving a hollow space where certainty used to live. She tries to fill it with excuses. He must be busy. He's probably talking to someone else. But the truth she's avoiding is this: she's not losing you, she's losing control. That's when the internal dialogue turns restless. She starts to feel the one emotion she rarely faces: self-doubt. Your calmness becomes a mirror reflecting what she's avoided seeing. Her confidence wasn't rooted in self-worth, but in how others responded to her. The stillness you've created forces her to confront her own emptiness. She begins to wonder why she can't stop thinking about a man who no longer gives her attention. It's not love she's craving, it's the restoration of her lost power. But here's the deeper truth. When a man stops chasing, he doesn't humiliate her, he humbles her reality. You're not punishing her with silence, you're simply refusing to feed her ego. Because power built on validation fades quickly, but power grounded in respect endures. And that's what she begins to feel, a rare kind of respect she's never had to earn. The calm she once dismissed as detachment now draws her in, because it exposes the difference between noise and strength. Brother, understand this. Your indifference is not cruelty, it's clarity. It shows her what happens when a man values his peace more than her approval. She may resist it, mock it, or pretend she doesn't care, but she feels it. Because in a world that teaches women to chase attention, nothing disrupts the script more powerfully than a man who doesn't. And that's when she realizes your indifference wasn't rejection, it was revelation. 3. How she reacts when you stop chasing. When you stop chasing, she won't stay quiet. She'll test you. Her world thrives on reaction, and when the flow of validation stops, she scrambles to get it back. It's not about love anymore. It's about control. You've broken the pattern that kept her ego fed, and now she needs to know if she still has the strings to pull. So she provokes. She posts pictures meant to catch your attention, each one carefully designed to make you wonder who she's trying to impress. She might mention another man in passing, or lace her words with subtle sarcasm, just sharp enough to sting your pride. None of it is random. It's all strategic. These are her psychological tests, each one built around a single question: do I still have power over him? But when you stay still, calm, composed, unbothered, something inside her starts to shift. You've removed the emotional feedback loop she depends on, and now she's left confronting her own uncertainty. That's when she begins to change her tactics. One moment, she may vanish completely, creating artificial distance just to see if you'll panic. The next, she might flip to the opposite extreme, acting overly sweet, sending a nostalgic text, trying to reignite the bond you've already released. Both sides of her behavior come from the same place: fear. Fear that your silence means she no longer matters. Fear that she has lost the influence she once held with ease. And the irony runs deep. Every attempt to pull you back only exposes her own vulnerability. The woman who once controlled the tempo of the connection now dances to the rhythm of your composure. She may think she's testing your patience, but in reality, it's her own emotions being tested. Because every time she provokes and you don't react, every time she tries to bait you and you remain unmoved, her confidence fractures a little more. That's why your response matters more than her behavior. The real power lies not in fighting back, but in refusing to be pulled into her storm. Stay grounded, don't retaliate, don't chase the bait she throws. Because the moment her games stop moving you, the power dynamic reverses completely. Your silence becomes louder than any confrontation, clearer than any explanation. Eventually she'll realize that all her efforts, every test, every post, every manipulation, have failed to shake you. And that realization doesn't just humble her, it redefines how she sees you. She starts to question herself instead of questioning you. And that's when something profound happens. Respect replaces control. Your silence becomes the lesson she never expected to learn, because while love may attract her, it's strength that commands her attention. And when you hold your ground, brother, you teach her the truth she was never meant to forget. A man who can't be provoked can't be controlled. 4. The reversal of power. The moment you stop chasing, the power quietly shifts. You may not notice it right away, but she does. She feels the ground move beneath her feet when you step out of the race she thought you'd never leave. She's used to being the prize, the one everyone competes for, the constant attention, the validation, the pursuit. It all built the scoreboard she used to measure her worth. But when you stop playing, the game collapses. There's no comparison left to make, no applause left to collect. For the first time, she's left facing silence instead of admiration, and that silence is deafening. Now she's standing in unfamiliar territory, a space where her usual tactics don't work. The teasing, the withdrawal, the sweet and cold pattern she's mastered, all of it begins to fail. Her ego wants control, but her heart starts to feel curiosity. She wonders what changed in you. What happened to the man who once rushed to reply, who once tried to please, who once revolved around her mood? That uncertainty becomes her new obsession. She's not confused about who you are. She's confused about why she no longer controls you. To regain her balance, she begins to oscillate between extremes. One day she's affectionate, warm, almost tender. The next, she's cold, detached, or distant. She'll say things meant to pull you in, then act like she doesn't care. It's not clarity she's seeking, it's control. Her emotions aren't random, they're tactics to test whether she still holds power. But what she doesn't realize is that every attempt to shake your composure only reminds her how steady you've become. You've taken away her favorite weapon, your attention, and turned it into something rare. And scarcity always creates value. Your calmness, your distance, your refusal to be emotionally baited, it all forces her to see you differently. You're no longer another man fighting for her affection. You've become the man whose self-respect cannot be bought. That shift is subtle but profound. You've gone from being reactive to being centered, from seeking validation to radiating certainty. That's the true reversal of power. You no longer need her approval to feel worthy. You no longer need her interest to feel alive. And when she realizes that her emotional tricks can't move you, something changes inside her. Respect replaces manipulation. The tension she once used to control you now turns into admiration she can't hide. Because deep down, every woman respects the man she can't easily sway, the man who stays grounded when she tries to shake him. And when that respect takes root, everything changes. The dynamic flips completely. She starts moving toward you, not because you chased, but because you stood still. And that's when she learns the truth no one ever told her. The man who needs nothing holds everything. 5. When you stay calm, the game ends. Every game loses its thrill when one player stops playing. She spent so long learning how to draw emotion out of men that when you don't react, when you stay calm, she doesn't know where to go next. She expects you to argue, to defend, to chase. That's how she measures her value, by how easily she can pull a reaction out of you. But when you refuse to play that role, her entire script collapses. The silence that follows isn't just awkward, it's disarming. It shows her that the control she thought she had was only ever borrowed, never owned. So she creates chaos to fill the void. She'll say something sharp just to see if she can make you bleed. She'll post something provocative, hoping it stirs a memory or awakens jealousy. She'll find new ways to test your patience, because deep down she's terrified that your peace means she's been replaced. But the calmer you stay, the more unbalanced she becomes. Because your calmness isn't just silence, it's power. It's a mirror reflecting her own instability. She can handle your anger. In fact, she expects it. Your anger tells her she still matters, that she still has the ability to move you. But your peace, that's the one thing she can't fight. Peace tells her she's lost her influence. And that realization cuts deeper than any words ever could. That's why she begins to push harder, longer silences, louder posts, sharper sarcasm. It's a desperate attempt to breathe life into a connection that you've already outgrown. The more chaos she brings, the more your stillness exposes the truth. You're not matching her energy because you've evolved beyond it. You no longer need to prove your strength through argument. You prove it through restraint. Your calm doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about your peace more than her drama. And the moment you reach that point, the game ends. That's when everything turns. She begins to see the difference between reaction and power, between attention and respect. The man who used to bend is now immovable, and in that stillness, she finally sees herself clearly. The mask drops, the manipulation, the tests, the emotional chaos, they all lose their effect. You stop being her puppet and become her mirror, and that reflection is something she can't escape. For the first time, she realizes you were never the unstable one. You were simply responding to a storm that wasn't yours to calm. When you found your peace, the dynamic flipped completely. Her control faded, and your silence became the loudest truth she's ever heard. And that's when she learns the final lesson. The calmest man in the room is always the one who holds the real power. 6. The spiral of obsession. The moment you stop chasing, she starts watching. You think she's moved on, that she's forgotten, that her silence means peace, but it doesn't. Behind that quiet, she's observing, calculating, comparing. She's trying to make sense of a story that no longer revolves around her. Because the moment you stepped back, you did something most men never do. You became unpredictable. And unpredictability breeds fascination. At first, she tells herself she doesn't care. She scrolls past your name, pretends your absence doesn't sting. But curiosity has a way of sneaking back in when the noise fades. She checks your social media, looks at who you follow, what you're doing, how you seem so calm. She notices that the man who once tried to prove himself is now silent, steady, maybe even happier. That image alone disrupts everything she believed about how men respond to her distance. Her curiosity turns into fixation, not because she misses you, but because she can't comprehend how she lost her grip on someone she thought she could always control. Being ignored wounds her ego deeper than being rejected ever could. Rejection still gives her closure. It lets her say, "He wanted me, I just didn't choose him." But indifference leaves her with no explanation. It keeps her awake at night, replaying every interaction, every message, every moment where she once had your attention. Because indifference doesn't close the door, it keeps it open, but locked from the inside. And that drives her mad. She starts to spiral. She rereads your texts, replays old conversations, revisits your photos, not out of love, but to decode a mystery. Why doesn't he care? She'll compare herself to the women she imagines might have your attention now, searching for proof that she still holds a piece of your focus. Every unanswered question becomes a loop in her mind. Every unanswered silence, an echo that grows louder with time. But what she's really experiencing isn't heartbreak, it's withdrawal. You've starved her ego of its favorite drug, attention. The daily doses of validation that once kept her feeling powerful are gone, and now she's left with nothing but her thoughts. And those thoughts are relentless. She isn't addicted to love, she's addicted to control. And when you stopped feeding that addiction, she started craving it in the only way she knew how, through obsession. That's why your indifference isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It shows her the difference between genuine connection and ego-driven attachment. It forces her to face the truth she's avoided her whole life. Attention is temporary, but respect must be earned. And in your stillness, she finally begins to understand something no one ever taught her, that peace cannot be manipulated, and a man who's mastered his emotions can never be owned. And that's when the spiral begins to reverse. Because what once began as obsession slowly turns into admiration. The same silence that once tormented her becomes the silence that teaches her. And brother, that's the kind of lesson she'll never forget. 7. When she realizes she can't control you. This is the breaking point, the exact moment she realizes her power is gone. It's not loud or dramatic, it's quiet, almost invisible. But you'll feel it. You'll see it in the shift of her tone, in the hesitation behind her words, in the way her eyes start searching for something that's no longer there. Your submission. She's tried everything to pull you back into her rhythm. Silence to make you chase, charm to make you soften, distance to make you panic, provocation to make you break. None of it worked. Her favorite weapons, attention, guilt, temptation, suddenly lost their power against your calm. And now her emotions start to swing wildly. One day, she tries to guilt-trip you. You've changed. You don't care like you used to. The next, she flatters you. You're not like other guys. You're different. Then, without warning, she goes cold again, pretending she's fine. These are not random mood swings. They're signs of emotional collapse. Her system of control, built on your predictable reactions, is falling apart. She's no longer sure which version of herself will bring you back, so she becomes all of them at once. Warm, cold, kind, cruel, hoping something will work. But this isn't love. It's unraveling. You're not watching a woman who's fallen for you. You're watching a woman who's losing her grip on the illusion of control. And that's a terrifying experience for anyone whose confidence was built on external approval. The certainty that once defined her, the belief that she could always make a man bend, starts to dissolve. Without your reaction, without your validation, she's left to face something she's avoided for years: herself. Your calm presence becomes the mirror she can't escape. Every time you don't rise to the bait, you show her what emotional discipline looks like. Every time you stay centered instead of defensive, you force her to confront her own chaos. She begins to realize that you're not playing hard to get. You've simply stopped playing altogether. And that realization stings more than any rejection ever could, because it's not about losing you. It's about losing her ability to define herself through you. When she reaches this point, one of two things will happen. She'll either grow or go. If she grows, she'll start showing up differently. The games will stop. The walls will lower. She'll begin to act with honesty, respect, and consistency because she knows manipulation no longer works. But if she goes, if she runs back to men who still chase, who still validate her through their weakness, let her. Because a woman who leaves when you stop chasing never wanted partnership. She wanted power. And brother, you were never meant to live under someone else's control. You were meant to master your emotions, not surrender them. So let her storm if she must. Stay calm, stay centered. Because when she realizes she can't control you, that's not your loss, it's your liberation. And that's the moment you finally see what real strength looks like, not in holding her, but in holding yourself. 8. The real meaning of not chasing. Not chasing isn't a tactic, it's transformation. It's not about withholding affection or pretending to be unavailable. It's about arriving at a place of quiet strength within yourself, where you no longer need anyone's reaction to feel secure. Most men confuse not chasing with manipulation. They think, if I stay silent, she'll start missing me. But that's not power. That's just attachment wearing a mask. Real power begins when her silence no longer disturbs your peace, when her validation no longer defines your worth. That's when you stop performing and start becoming. When you stop chasing, you finally see the truth of who you are. You recognize how much of your energy you once traded for brief moments of approval, how much of your identity you sacrificed just to feel chosen. Chasing doesn't just tire you, it drains your spirit. It keeps your mind spinning around someone else's rhythm, leaving you reactive, restless, and lost. Every time you sought reassurance, you handed away your power, piece by piece, until you forgot what it felt like to move from self-respect instead of fear. But silence, true silence, isn't absence. It's alignment. It's when the noise fades and you begin to rebuild from the inside out. You start pouring your focus back into what matters: your health, your mission, your discipline, your peace. You start living again, not for her attention, but for your evolution. And in that stillness, you begin to realize that solitude isn't loneliness, it's purification. It strips away everything false until all that remains is what's real: your strength, your purpose, your clarity. Most men never reach this point. They withdraw to manipulate, not to mature. But when you pull back to protect your peace, something inside you shifts. You stop chasing what's fleeting and start cultivating what's eternal: your character. You no longer chase women, validation, or closure. You chase mastery, purpose, and peace. You become the man who doesn't chase, not because he's emotionless, but because he's anchored. And here's the paradox. Once you reach that state, everything you were chasing starts chasing you. People feel your calm before you speak. Women sense your presence before you even look their way. Life itself starts opening doors because you're no longer desperate, you're aligned. That's the real meaning of not chasing. It's not withdrawal, it's awakening. Because once you find peace within yourself, you don't need to demand respect. You naturally command it. And that's when she feels it. The quiet, grounded power of a man who no longer runs after anyone because he finally walks with himself. 9. Freedom is the final power. A man who doesn't chase never loses. He only learns who's real. That's the kind of truth most men spend their lives avoiding, distracted by a world that glorifies proving yourself to those who don't even value what you're made of. Since boyhood, you've been told that love must be earned, that your worth depends on how hard you fight to keep someone who's already walking away. Movies, music, and social media turned sacrifice into romance and chasing into devotion. But brother, that's not strength, it's surrender. And the man who keeps chasing never realizes he's running in circles, searching for validation that was never his to begin with. The man who doesn't chase isn't cold, he's clear. He's not retreating in fear, he's rising in awareness. He knows his energy is sacred, his time is currency, and his peace is priceless. He doesn't need to prove anything to anyone because his presence already speaks louder than words. He's learned that true attraction isn't created by effort, it's awakened by self-mastery. You can't force respect. You inspire it by staying steady when others lose control, by choosing calm when chaos calls, by walking away when your dignity demands it. And when a woman meets this kind of man, the one she can't manipulate, guilt, or emotionally sway, she calls him distant. But deep down, she respects him because he stands for something few men do anymore: peace under pressure. He doesn't react to noise, doesn't chase validation, and doesn't mistake attention for connection. He's not running away from love, he's walking toward purpose. And in doing so, he becomes untouchable, not because he hides his emotions, but because he rules them. Freedom becomes his final power. The moment you stop needing to be chosen, you start choosing. The moment you stop begging for acceptance, you start standing in truth. Love that depends on control is fragile, but love born from freedom is unbreakable. Remember this: the goal was never to make her stay. It was to make yourself unshakable. Because when you find peace within, no one can weaponize love against you. And that's when she finally sees it. The calm she once dismissed has become the calm she can't forget. Freedom isn't the absence of love, it's the proof of it. And once you live in that truth, brother, you don't chase peace, you become it. Brother, if this message reached you, take it as your turning point. The chase ends here, not because you've given up, but because you've woken up. You've reclaimed your time, your purpose, your peace. The silence you once feared has become your greatest weapon. Like this video so more men searching for strength can find it. Subscribe to Stoic Station for daily lessons in calm, discipline, and inner power. In the comments, write this truth: I no longer chase. Because once you master yourself, brother, you become the calm she can't forget, and the freedom no one can take.